Cori Broadus stepped out of the sleek black car into the cool Los Angeles night, her lavender satin dress catching the golden lights of the charity gala. Paparazzi bulbs flashed from every angle, but not a single camera turned toward her. Around her, celebrities posed in clusters, their names shouted by photographers. Cori adjusted her clutch, smiled faintly, and walked toward the entrance. She was used to this, being adjacent to the spotlight but rarely in it. Tonight's event was a high-profile charity fundraiser supporting youth arts programs, a cause close to her heart. Yet from the moment she walked into the grand ballroom of the Beverly Regent Hotel, she felt it, the freeze. Cori passed elegantly dressed women who exchanged glances but offered no introductions. A famous influencer brushed by her without eye contact. At the check-in desk, the woman scanning the guest list looked her over, paused, and asked, "And you are?" Cori gave her name. The woman's expression didn't change. "Oh, okay. You're +1? No, she wasn't. She was on the list herself, but the pause, the condescension, it spoke louder than any words. Still, Cori held her head high. The ballroom was a breathtaking scene, chandeliers glowing like stardust, walls lined with art from local teen artists, and music floating softly through the air. She walked to the bar to grab a drink and was met by a group of young philanthropists deep in conversation. She tried to join in, nodding and offering a comment about the artwork. The group went silent for a moment, then slowly resumed talking without acknowledging her. She had seen this before, the way people assessed her, measured her presence, wondered why she was there. Despite her lineage, she was often treated like an afterthought unless someone made the connection to her father, and even then, the recognition came with a smile that never reached the eyes. But tonight it felt sharper. As she moved through the crowd, Cori was careful not to let her discomfort show. She smiled, she nodded, she listened. When the keynote speaker was introduced, a young white woman from a wealthy background who gave a speech about making space for underrepresented voices. Cori sat at her table in silence, watching as those same voices were nowhere near the mic. Before we continue, if stories like this speak to you, stories of truth, transformation, and resilience, be sure to subscribe to the channel for more. Back in her seat, Cori took a deep breath. She wasn't angry, not yet. Just tired. Tired of being reminded over and over that in rooms like these you could be passionate, poised, and powerful, but still invisible. The dinner came and went. During dessert, an event organizer made her way around the table, greeting guests. When she reached Cori, she nodded absently and moved on, calling the next guest by name. Cori wasn't surprised. It was as if she had been placed in a scene where everyone had a script and she hadn't been given a line. By the time the final charity auction began, Cori had quietly stepped out of the ballroom. The air outside the grand hall was cooler, quieter. She leaned against a marble pillar and stared at the glowing chandelier through the glass. There was no one there to applaud her, no camera flash, no social media post to capture the stillness. Just a girl who had come to support a cause she believed in and was made to feel like she didn't belong. But the story was far from over. Cori stayed by the marble pillar for several minutes, her back turned to the gala as if she could will herself away from it. The soft hum of voices and clinking glasses echoed faintly behind her, but she felt entirely disconnected, like a ghost in her own narrative. Her phone buzzed in her clutch. A few DMs, some tagged photos, and a generic "you looked amazing tonight" message from someone she didn't even see at the event. None of it made her feel seen, not truly. As she wandered down a hallway lined with framed portraits of past donors and founders, she heard footsteps behind her. A young volunteer approached, no more than 21, wearing a name badge and a nervous smile. "Hi, sorry to bother you," the girl said, shifting awkwardly. "Are you Snoop Dogg's daughter?" Cori turned slowly. "Yeah, I'm Cori." "Oh, wow," the volunteer said, eyes wide. "I didn't think someone like you would show up." Cori raised an eyebrow, trying to mask the sting. "Someone like me?" The girl blushed. "No, I mean, it's just, this event is usually like, you know." I didn't think you'd be into it. Cori gave a small nod, not trusting herself to speak. The girl smiled again, muttered something about getting back to her station, and hurried off. Cori stood frozen in place. Someone like you. The words echoed louder than any music in that building. She made her way to a quiet alcove near the lobby, sat on a cushioned bench beneath a piece of abstract art, and let her guard down. For a moment, just a moment, the tears welled up, but she blinked them away. This wasn't about weakness. It was about weariness, about walking into rooms with pride only to be reminded that your presence is always being measured, questioned, diminished. Her thoughts drifted to childhood. Growing up as the daughter of one of the most recognizable artists in the world had not been a golden pass to acceptance. Cori had battled more than just public scrutiny. She had battled herself. Diagnosed with lupus at a young age, she had spent years in and out of hospitals, learning the value of life in painful increments. She had struggled with self-image, with depression, with the crushing expectation of being the daughter of... But Cori was more than that. She had built her own brand, released her own music, started mental health campaigns aimed at helping young black women speak openly about trauma and identity. She had given interviews, hosted workshops, spoken at schools. She had earned her space, not inherited it, so why did it still feel like she was invisible? Back in the ballroom, laughter roared as someone made a joke at the podium. Cori closed her eyes and let the sound pass over her. Then came a whisper of memory, her father's voice, one of those long talks they had late at night after a tough day. "You don't need no stage, baby girl," he had told her once. The truth always finds light, even in the darkest corners. That night, the darkness wasn't loud, it was quiet. It was made of glances that skipped her, names not remembered, voices that passed her over. It was the kind of silence that scratches at your skin until you wonder if you're even real to the people around you. But Cori was real. And somewhere in that building, so was the man who had always seen her, even when no one else did. Snoop Dogg had been in the VIP lounge for over an hour, half listening to donors, influencers, and old friends congratulate him on his latest Youth Foundation milestone. The jazz trio played softly in the corner, and the walls were adorned with blown-up photographs of him handing out scholarships, attending school openings, shaking hands with mayors. It should have been a proud night, but something didn't sit right. His eyes kept scanning the room, looking for Cori. She was supposed to be here. They'd spoken just a few hours earlier. She had sounded excited, even if a little anxious. She had picked out her own dress, arranged her own invite, and insisted she didn't need to be introduced by anyone. "I want them to see me for me," she had said. Snoop respected that, respected her. She had strength no one knew about. He'd watched her grow through pain, through silence, through the fire of public expectation. She wasn't just his daughter, she was a fighter, a queen. He pulled out his phone and opened her profile. There it was, a cryptic post she'd shared less than 15 minutes ago. "You can't shine where the lights were never meant for you." No photo, just black background and white text. He stood up slowly, his towering frame causing a few heads to turn. He gave a casual wave and excused himself, weaving through the velvet-roped lounge and into the corridor beyond. As he walked, memories played back in his mind. Cori as a little girl, clutching his leg during photo shoots. Cori, her face pale in a hospital bed but still smiling. Cori performing her first original song in their living room, nervous but radiant. He had made mistakes in life, many. But when it came to his kids, he had always tried to show up, sometimes messy, sometimes late, but always present. And right now, something told him his baby girl needed him. He turned a corner and saw her. Cori was sitting on a bench beneath a blue-toned painting, her head bowed slightly, phone in hand. Her posture was perfect, her dress flawless, but her energy off, hollow. She didn't notice him until he was just a few steps away. "Hey," he said softly. She looked up quickly, surprised. "Dad?" He nodded. "You all right?" She hesitated, lips parting, eyes searching his face. The words hovered for a moment, then collapsed into a simple shake of the head. Without a word, he sat beside her and wrapped his arm around her shoulder. She leaned in, let herself rest there for a beat. "They don't see me," she whispered. "They see what they want to see," he replied. "But I see you, I always do." A pause. She sat up a bit straighter. "You want me to handle this?" he asked, his voice calm but with that edge she knew too well. The edge he used when something sacred had been crossed. Cori looked into his eyes. There was no embarrassment there, no fear, just resolve. This wasn't about her throwing a tantrum or demanding attention. It was about dignity, about being made to feel small in a room where her heart had been open. She gave a small nod. "Yeah," she said, "I think I do." Snoop stood slowly, adjusted his jacket, and offered her his hand. "Come on, then." As they walked side by side toward the ballroom, the sounds of laughter and speeches floated closer. But the temperature had changed. A storm was coming, and it wasn't one of rage, it was one of truth. The ballroom pulsed with chatter as a celebrity auctioneer prepared to begin the next round. Guests clinked champagne flutes, oblivious to the shift taking place just outside their bubble. Then, without announcement, Snoop Dogg walked up to the stage. At first, no one noticed. A few murmurs rippled through the tables as heads turned. The host, clearly caught off guard, stepped aside with a nervous laugh. The band quieted. The mic squeaked. Snoop's presence was calm, but commanding. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. "I came here tonight to support something beautiful," he began. "A cause that matters, and I'm proud to be honored for the work we've done with youth across this country." A few polite claps. He nodded once, then continued. "But you know what else matters?" he asked. "How you treat people when the cameras aren't flashing. How you look at someone when you don't recognize their face or think their name ain't worth remembering." Now, the room stilled. "There's a young woman in this room," he said, scanning the crowd. "She's here because she believes in this cause. She's been through more pain than most of y'all could handle, and still came tonight to support something bigger than herself." He extended his arm toward the entrance. "She's also my daughter." Gasps scattered across the tables. Cori stepped forward, her hands steady but heart racing. All eyes finally turned to her, but this time they didn't slide past her. They locked in. Snoop offered his hand again and she walked to the stage. "Some of y'all walked past her," he said gently, "like she didn't belong. Some of y'all looked at her and didn't see anything worth noticing." He paused. "Well, now you're gonna see her." He stepped back and placed the mic in her hand. Cori stood at the podium, her voice soft but unwavering. "I didn't come here tonight to be praised," she said. "I came because I care about young people who are told they don't matter. I've been that young person. I've been the girl no one remembered, the girl with the illness, the girl in someone else's shadow." Her eyes swept the room. "But I'm also the girl who chose to speak, to heal, to lead. And tonight I walked into this room proud of the woman I've become. I just didn't expect to feel invisible again." Silence. Then she added, "I don't want your pity. I want you to do better. Look again. See what you missed the first time. And not just with me, but with every young person who walks into a space like this hoping to be seen." A beat passed, then applause. Quiet at first. Then swelling, erupting into a full standing ovation. The cameras that had ignored her now clicked non-stop, flash after flash. But this time, it wasn't about spectacle. It was about recognition. Snoop gave her a nod, pride written all over his face. As Cori stepped down from the stage, people reached for her hand. Voices she hadn't heard all night now rushed to thank her, to ask her name, to apologize. But the most powerful voice that remained was her own. What happened in those few minutes was more than redemption. It was a shift. A room that had been blind now had its eyes opened, not because of shame, but because someone had finally told the truth with grace. By the next morning, the video had already crossed 1 million views. It began with a tweet, a 90-second clip of Snoop Dogg calling out the silent exclusion at the gala, followed by Broadus delivering her speech with stunning clarity. The caption read, "This is how you use your platform. Respect." From there, it spread like wildfire. Major outlets picked it up. "Snoop Dogg and daughter Cori Broadus demand respect at LA Gala," read one headline. Another called it, "A moment of truth in a room full of pretenders." Instagram flooded with clips, TikToks recreated the speech with music in the background, and celebrities, some of whom had been in that very room, posted apologies, praise, and solidarity. But the most meaningful messages were private. Cori's inbox was filled with young women, black, brown, disabled, quiet, ambitious, sharing their own stories of invisibility. Students, artists, activists, they wrote of being talked over, looked through, left out. They thanked her for putting words to what they had felt their whole lives. For Cori, it was overwhelming. Not because of the fame, it wasn't fame she wanted, but because she finally felt seen, not for who her father was, but for who she was. And for once, the world saw it too. A few days later, she was invited to speak at 2 universities. One of the largest youth mental health organizations in the country offered her a collaboration. A prominent filmmaker asked to meet about a documentary on young black identity. What had begun as a painful evening became a turning point, one that launched her further into the purpose she had long nurtured in silence. Snoop, meanwhile, watched it all unfold with quiet pride. He didn't say much. He didn't need to. One night, as they sat on the back patio of his house, he looked at her and said simply, "You did that, not me, you." Cori smiled. "Maybe, but I needed you to open the door." "Nah," he replied. "You kicked it down yourself. I just made sure they were watching." It was a soft moment, lit by the orange glow of sunset. Father and daughter, both strong in their own ways. Both changed by a night that had started in silence and ended in a roar. The gala organizers issued a public statement days later. Apologies were made. Promises were drafted. But Cori didn't need them. She knew what was real. Real was in the messages, in the shift, in the way people hesitated now, thinking twice before dismissing someone who didn't fit their mold. And most of all, it was in the way she carried herself now. There was no more shrinking, no more second-guessing. She didn't walk in shadows anymore. Before we close this chapter, if Cori's story moved you, if it made you reflect on who gets seen and who doesn't, make sure you subscribe to the channel. These are the stories that matter and they deserve to be told. And don't stop here. Click the video on your screen now to watch another powerful true story that will challenge the way you see the world. Because sometimes all it takes is one voice to make silence impossible.